Hello, everybody. Good morning and good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today for the Hush Secure Forms Getting Started webinar. It looks like we may have maybe a few people that are coming in a bit late. We'll give them another minute or so. Yeah, today basically we're going to be going over the Hush Secure Forms, how to use it, and a lot of the fundamentals that you need to get started, as well as some of the more recent updates and improvements that we've made over the recent weeks here. Yeah, a lot of exciting stuff, and we'll get started in just a minute here. Okay, I think that's good. We can go ahead and get started. Again, thank you everybody for joining us today. This is the Getting Started with Hush Secure Forms webinar. We'll be covering a lot of the basics, as I said just a minute ago, and going over some of the recent improvements that we've made to the Hush Secure Forms platform. So yeah. For many of you, this may be familiar. You may be just kind of starting out with the forums, or you may be have built a couple of forums already and just looking to see what some of the improvements have been. Yeah, it's a very easy to use tool. We'll be going over some of the basic things, but the main points, the main reasons you may be wanting to use a Hushmail secure web form is, maybe you're currently sending out PDFs and Word documents. Maybe some of them are coming back incomplete, illegible. Maybe you're using them for consent forms, or you'd like to use them for consent forms or intake forms. And those are all excellent use cases and all good reasons to switch over to start using Hush Secure Forms. You see a little sample here in front of you right now. This is an example of what it might look like. It's very familiar to even to people that maybe haven't used Hush Secure Forms. If you've ever been to a website and you've gone onto a contact page where it asks you for a name, phone number, and email, very similar experience, and very easy to use. So they fill in their information, they hit submit, and you receive the information on your end. But let's go ahead and jump in to maybe creating our first form here. So we can go ahead and jump into the actual form builder. From this screen, this is hushforms.com. You can actually get in through here as well. You can just sign in directly here, and that'll take you straight to your forms. Or if you're currently signed into your Hushmail account, this is a fresh new account, nothing exciting in here, but in the top right-hand corner of any Hushmail account, you'll find the form builder button. So you can go ahead and click on that, and that'll take you straight to the Hush Secure Forms. So in this case, this is probably what most of you are going to see if you have not created your forms. And this is just a little intro page, and we can click here where it says create my first form. And now we have our templates. So there are a good number of templates that you can choose from. You have some very basic ones up here at the top. And for healthcare specifically, we have a good number of forms, some of them being smart forms that you can use down here. I'm not going to go through each individual template right now. You're more than welcome to do that from within your own account. But if you do want to preview any of them or take a look at them or potentially use one of them, you can click on where it says preview or use. And it'll take you straight into there. For the sake of our example today, what I'd like to do is actually jump into this one. This is one that I recommend pretty frequently, not one of the more commonly used ones compared to maybe our more basic secure contact form. But let's go ahead and jump in here to the new client questionnaire for adults. So we get a preview of the template. We can go ahead and click use this template at the top here to go into it. And you'll notice on the left side here, we have a good number of fields that you can choose from. I didn't mention it earlier, but actually, if you take a look, you'll notice that there's a place for you to enter in your questions. If you do have any questions, you're more than welcome to type them in there. And as we go through the webinar, I'll either try to answer it if it's something that's relevant to what we're looking at right now. But at the end of the webinar, we'll also be going through that. So yeah, you're more than welcome to enter in any of those questions. And I'll take some time at the end here to go over those with you. But yeah, so looking at this actual form, it says, yeah, the form was successfully added to your collection. And this column here on the left side is basically the main place that you're going to be taking things and adding them into the actual form. If let's say we have the first name and we have the last name here, we don't have a middle initial, and maybe that's important for what I need. So the most commonly used form is actually the short text form. So we can go ahead and click and drag that over, and we can drop it wherever we'd like. You'll notice a blue line shows up in between the existing fields here, and that indicates where it's going to fall. I want to put it over here. And you'll notice that it kind of stretched things out, but that's not a big problem. We're just gonna adjust it. Make some happy little fields here. So we're gonna click on the short text field, and I'm gonna change that to, let's say, middle initial. Some people are maybe going to want to enter that in. Maybe it's needed for in your case, but the only other thing I want to take a look at is the required field. Whether or not we need that required is up to you, but if you do want it, just click there, it toggles it, and if you want to save that change, you can hit apply. That's pretty much how you edit any of the fields. It's as simple as that. You just click on it, gives you this little window. You can make your changes. And let's say you have a typo and you enter in a bunch of text accidentally. It's not a big problem at all. You just hit cancel and it removes those changes. Right? You'll notice as we scroll down here that some of these fields have a red asterisk, and probably not anything unfamiliar to you guys. This is just indicating that it is required. So if they try to submit the form without that filled out, it'll show up as red lines, and they'll have to come back and fill it out in order for them to be able to actually submit it. Hence solving the problem of incomplete forms. So as we scroll down here, you may find that this is a perfect form for you to start off with. You may find that this is a form that is maybe irrelevant, and so you can maybe delete it and try using a different template. If you have 2 forms included in your subscription, or you have 5 forms included in your subscription, deleting a form and adding a new one back in, it will work exactly as you might think. Basically, if you have 5 forms, this form takes up one of the slots, but if you delete it, you get that slot back. So you can always delete an irrelevant form, or a form that becomes irrelevant in the future, and then replace it with one that makes more sense for your workflow. But yeah, so let's go ahead and take a look here. We've added a field in. This is our fabulous little middle initial field. We can move it around. Let's say we decide we want it to come down to the line below. We can always move it. It's not set in stone wherever we place it initially, and we can put it back. And you'll notice we have some branding here on the right side. So this is a great place. This top right-hand corner here is a great place to put anything like that, any notices, any really important things that you need to have up. If you want to edit anything within the actual field, again, you simply click on it. It gives you the information. It's all laid out nicely, and you can edit any of it. If for whatever reason, maybe you intend on using this form on your website and you don't want this column here on the right showing up, you can delete the information here, hit apply. That shows up as like a blank little section there. You would do the same thing for this little section, and then this whole right column just won't show up. So if that makes more sense for the layout of your website, maybe you already have your branding on there, maybe you find this excessive, maybe you do want it there. Either way, if you remove it, it will not show up on the actual form. It won't show up as a blank section like this. There won't be anything there. You'll just have these fields kind of shifted over. Yeah, so that's the basics of adding fields in and editing them. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the recent updates that we've had. So if we have, let's say we're doing medical history and we need a long list of yes or no questions answered. We've already done this one and it looks great. It says, have you been treated by a doctor in the last 12 months? And so they can click yes or no. These are the radio buttons, which are just these guys over here. And it's more of an either or type selection. So if it's one thing or another, but it's never going to be both, you want to use the radio buttons. So let's say, this is a good example though of the format that we'll need for the rest of the questions. We can go ahead and just duplicate this, so we don't have to drag this over every time, and maybe we can just save ourselves some work there. So you just click on this little button here, click duplicate, and it gives us the exact same field down below. So now we can make an adjustment. Have you, let's say, traveled out of the country in the last 12 months? Very similar question in terms of format. We have our options here, yes or no, and we have it set to required. So we can click apply. It saves the changes. And then, actually, let's move this up here so it makes a bit more sense. And what I'd like to do is, let's say, maybe we're using this as like a COVID-19 screening form. And so we have some basic questions that we need to ask them for COVID-19 screening, for example. And this is a relevant question for that. But if they said no here, then maybe we don't need them going through a bunch of questions that are irrelevant. Or let's do it this way. So let's say, have you traveled out of the country in the last 12 months? Let's add in a little formatted text field here. Another very common one that you're probably going to use often if you're adding in a bunch of text. And we're going to enter in, please contact the office for additional screening. So we add that in there. And let's say, this is really important, so we want that to be bold, and maybe we can make it a bit larger. There we go. But we don't want this necessarily to show up if the person selects no. So one of the recent updates that we made is conditional formatting. So if I click here, we'll click on the actual form, we'll click on the settings, and it says show this field. The field is always visible by default. But if we click on add condition, we can say that, I'll scroll down to, have you traveled out of the country in the last 12 months? This is the relevant question here, right? So if we click on this, if it meets, if they select yes, and we hit apply. So what happens here is if they say yes, they have traveled out of the country in the last 12 months, then this field will show up. Right? It's a very powerful tool that you can use to just kind of keep your forms succinct and not have them be very lengthy, or from saving yourself some time or them some time from filling the form out, only to find that it's irrelevant because they should have contacted their office directly. So that's a nice little addition there that we've made actually just recently. So there are going to be some use cases that pop up, I'm sure, that maybe we haven't thought of yet. Again, if you have any questions specifically, you can pop them into the chat there, into the questions, or we can discuss it at the end a bit further. So let's go ahead and scroll down. Let's say this form is filled with all of the different things that we're going to need. Let's say we have a little blurb at the end here with here are our terms and conditions, and we can add a link here, and we can say we can link the terms using this insert link option there, and we can say the URL is, wherever whatever. If you have a website with your actual terms and conditions, you can add that link in here. In this case, because it's just a test, I'm just going to add hushmail.com, and this becomes and this becomes a link here. So it becomes clickable. They can click on that. Didn't save. Let's go in there, hushmail.com. Hit insert, and there we go. Okay, so it becomes a link. They can click on that, and now let's say they are ready to, I agree to the terms outlined above. Obviously, I don't know whether that's legally binding text or not, but what is legally binding for sure is the signature. So adding a signature field is as simple as that. You'll notice it's just right here. It has this new token right next to it, this new badge. So if you drag it on over, just as we did earlier, they'll be able to actually sign it. But let's say this form is perfect as it is. It's done. It's exactly what we need for it to be. We can go ahead and go up into the top left-hand corner here, hit publish. And because we added an e-signature to this actual form, we won't be able to post it onto a website. It's just the way that the legally binding signatures work. In order for them to function properly, they have to be sent to a specific person. Don't be thrown off by this text here. If you do in fact need a signature on this form, then this is exactly what you need. And we're going to hit accept and publish changes. There we go. We know that the changes have been published, and let's go ahead and send it off to ourselves. A couple different ways you can send the form. So this is our forms list. Again, not a super long list that we're looking at just because I've only created the one form, but let's go ahead to the right here, and you'll notice that it says we can send the form. If I were to click on this, you'll see that it's added the form to an email draft. I have the subject already filled in for me here, and all I have to really do is add in who I'm going to send it to. In this case, I'm going to send it to a test account that I have, and we're going to say, hello, please fill out the form below. Thank you. So let's go ahead and send that form off. And it's been sent. So we know that the form's gone out. It says sent up here, but let's say, we've been waiting a couple days and we haven't heard back from the person. We've tried reaching out and they're not getting back to us. We can check on the status of that by clicking on this little forms folder here. So if I click on forms, we can see that a couple of forms have gone out. This is a test that I did yesterday, but there's also this one that we're waiting on, and we've been waiting on since August 7th, 2020 at 10:19 a.m., which is right now at Pacific time. Yeah, so we know that it is that we are still waiting on it. Once the recipient actually signs the form, this little yellow square here will turn green, indicating that it has been completed and submitted. But let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like on the receiving end. So I'm going to open up my test account here. And here we are. So this is what it's going to look like on the receiving end or close to it. Looks like I put our logo in the bottom there, but that's fine. Basically, they have a link here that they can click on, and added it to my spam folder. There we go. So let's go ahead and click on where it says read your secure mail. So here you'll notice that it's prompting me for a passphrase. This is what they're going to see as they go to receive any of your encrypted forms. I'm going to go ahead and type my passphrase in here. And now we're looking at the actual form. So you'll notice as we scroll down here, we have, or even at the top, we have, hello, please fill out the form below, thank you. And as we scroll down, we have the information that we were asking for. We have a little signature at the bottom. I just want to show you it's very easy to fill out. Andre Test. And if we click on the date of birth field, we can select our date of birth, and we can test out that little condition that we set. So, have you traveled out of the country in the last 12 months? Let's say they say yes. Please contact the office directly for additional screening. Very powerful stuff here. Looks very simple, but it's kudos to our development team for making that awesome little feature there, because that's that was a pretty cool one. So let's say that they're ready to sign the actual form. At the bottom here, it says signature. We can click to sign it, and we get presented with 3 options. So we can actually type the signature. So I can say Andre Test, and that would function well. That'll work well. We can also draw it if we want to draw it, and they can use a mouse, or if it's touchscreen, they can actually draw it. Andre Test. And you notice that works pretty well. And if they haven't uploaded an image, then they can also just attach that file here. If they have one ready, they can take a photo of a signature. If they want to draw one out on a piece of paper, take a photo and attach it here. But really, it's more important that they check the box, because it's not so important that it's like how it looks, whether it's typed out, drawn, or if they upload an image. What's important is, one, that they acknowledge the receipt. They say use the signature, and then they can hit submit. But there are a few things that we're capturing at the time of signing. We get the IP address, device type that was used, date and time, email that it was sent to. So all of these different things combined work together to make it an actually legally binding signature. So when they hit submit, that comes back to you. For the sake of the test, what I'd like to do is actually send a shorter form so you can see what it looks like on the receiving end here. So let's go back and let's send a shorter form. So let's say we'll create a shorter form with maybe just a name. We'll say required, and we'll add a signature right here. And we'll call it a test form. The reason I'm doing this is because I don't want you guys to have to watch me fill out 100 different things on the other form, but we'll go ahead and hit publish here, and we'll send this one off. So we have this new form, this test form that I just created. We can hit send form, and we'll send it to the same account. All right, please fill out, and we'll send that off. Again, this will show up in the forms here. It says we're waiting since this time, since this date. And if I go into my test account here, we'll pull this up. And that's what we have. So let's go ahead and click read your secure mail. We're already signed in. So it's as simple in this case as saying Andre Test. We can sign it. And they agree to the consent here. They say use this signature. They hit submit. And they get this nice little notification saying your form has been submitted. And that's great. So now we can go back into our Hushmail account. And you'll notice in the inbox here, it says we've received a test form. It's come back to us encrypted, which is beautiful. And we'll click on that. And we have a few nice bits of information. So one, we have the information that they filled out. We have their signature indicated here, but we also have the form activity. So we can see, it shows us that we created the request and the signing invitation was sent to this email address. At this time, they viewed the form, and then at this time, they saved their signature, submitted the form, and completed it. So a lot of good information here. We also have the PDF. So if we needed for whatever, if this was a much longer form, maybe it's an intake form and you need to upload it to a different page, or you want to keep it somewhere else securely, you can click on that and it'll download it for you, as you can see down here in the bottom left-hand corner. Yeah, a lot of different ways that you can kind of keep track of the forms. But let's go ahead and we'll go back to this forms page here. If we refresh it, you'll notice that now it says completed, and it says when that was completed exactly. So yeah, that part of it is pretty much it for sending and receiving, editing the forms. But let's say you work with a team, let's say, or maybe there's more than one of you in your business or in your clinic or company. And if that is the case, maybe you've already created a form. It's excellent the way that it is, but you'd like for the other team members with you to be able to use that same exact form. So again, anytime you want to make any edits, you would go here up into the form builder. This is where you would manage your forms, where you'd edit your forms. And when you click on that, it takes you to this page where it gives you the list. The form that I'd like to share with my team is the new client questionnaire. So let's go ahead and click on that one. And then in the top left-hand corner here where it says form settings, you'll notice that we have a few things that we can edit. But what we're looking at right now is sharing. So if I want to share this with everybody in my organization, I can click here and apply and publish changes. And it's as simple as that. So now the different team members with me also have access to that form. You'll notice it's indicated here with this little logo. If you hover over it, it says this form is shared with your organization. And that's a great way to make sure that you don't waste time having multiple people fill in or build forms unnecessarily. It also is good if, let's say you have 5 different forms for your company, but you also have 5 different team members. The way that it works is you can share one form with all 5 team members, and that'll still only count as one form, leaving you with 4 more forms on your subscription that you can use for other use cases, right? So yeah, that's a good way to kind of keep your total form count down and keep that workflow as minimal as possible. That workload, I should say. So the other thing I wanted to show is we do have smart templates, smart forms that I mentioned earlier. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. If I click on where it says form builder here in the top right-hand corner, we can go ahead and create a form, and this will take us back to our list of templates. So if I scroll down, you'll notice that we have some standardized forms in here. You may have noticed this earlier, and this may or may not be relevant to your specific type of practice or to your business, but let's say it is. This is the GAD7, and you can click on this here. And basically what happens is if a recipient of yours fills out this form and they answer these questions, some very, very standardized stuff here. If they hit submit, it comes back to you with a scored result, right? So it already gives you a summary of the results, and it's based on this standardized form, probably very familiar to you if you've worked with the GAD, or if you've used the GAD7 before, if you've heard of it before, and there are other forms that are standardized smart forms as well. So it's, as you can see, it's very easy to use the forms. There's a lot of different ways you can get creative with it, and yeah, you're obviously welcome to reach out to our customer care team if you do have any questions. I don't see any questions here in the chat right now. If you have any questions, I'll wait a couple minutes and you can put them in there. And I'm happy to answer anything you'd like to pass on over. Otherwise, for everybody else, I guess just thank you for joining the webinar. If you have any questions and you'd like to reach out to the Hushmail customer care team, feel free to contact us at this number here, or email us at support@hushmail.com. So yeah, if you don't, oh, it looks like I have a question here. Oh, okay. So yeah, thank you for that question. It's basically saying, are you going to go over creating a form that you already have or use? That's a great question. So it's a very similar workflow to what I was showing you earlier. If we were, maybe working with an intake form, a lot of the fields that are relevant there may also be relevant in something like a secure contact form, for example. So you can definitely start with an empty form if you want to just start with a blank slate and kind of add the fields in. But if you're going to need the name, phone number, and email, then you can definitely start with the secure contact form, and it's a good place to not have to start with nothing. So let's say it's you want to create your form. Basically, you are recreating the form by dragging and dropping the relevant fields. This is very easy to do in terms of workflow. You're literally just taking whatever field you need and dragging it over wherever you need it. But if you're talking about, a form where you need a medical history or anything like that, then yeah, it can be time consuming. So we do also offer, as an additional service, the ability to, the option for us to build the forms for you. If you are interested in that, definitely, again, reach out to the customer care team. We're happy to build the forms for you. Obviously we know how to do that. So yeah, as an additional service, we can definitely look into doing that for you. And we can provide you with a quote for how much that might cost based on the length of your form or the formatting of it. Okay, yeah, perfect. So yeah, no, I'm glad that answered your question. And yeah, I'll wait another minute or so for any other questions. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all we set out to cover today. So yeah, just thank you all for reaching out. I'll put up the information again here in case anybody would like it. That's the Hushmail customer care team. Everybody on the team is lovely and brilliant at what they do. So feel free to reach out and expect nothing less than absolute friendliness and expertise there. But for everybody else, thank you for joining, and have a great rest of your day. It looks like it's the end of our questions. So yeah, again, just thanks again. Stay safe out there and have an excellent day.